Hi, Professor Osborne. My name is Rebecca Mix. I'm in your online ed psych class, and this is Project 1. Alright, so the first question was, what are the connections you see between the two videos? Think of at least 5. What do they have in common, and what are their differences? Alright, so 5 connections that I saw between the two videos. The first 4 are what they had in common. The last one was kind of a difference. Alright, so the first one I found was that both discuss intrinsic, extrinsic reward or motivation. Intrinsic, the desire to do something just because you love it, not because someone's making you or paying you. Second, extrinsic, do it only because you're rewarded, which people have found to be not so good in some cases. So number 2, the second thing I found in common was that when you put under a study those who received an extrinsic reward, they actually did worse of a job than the group that was intrinsically motivated. Alright, so number 3, autonomy, I think I'm pronouncing that right, autonomy matters. Autonomy is when, in this case, students have the option to do their work however they want, no matter what, so long as they get it done. So they can sit in their bedroom, or they can sit at a desk in the library, whatever they want to do, so long as they're getting their work done. That's what matters. You can see this in FedEx days or Google when they spend at least like 20% of their work time actually working on something that they're interested in, and that's how things such as Google Docs and Pages, things like that, were invented. So that's kind of good. Alright, so number 4, size and type of reward matters. So the ones who were actually offered the largest rewards in these case studies that they performed in Daniel Pink's video, they actually ended up doing the worst job of all, as opposed to the ones with maybe a smaller reward or no reward at all. So that's interesting, interesting information. Alright, so the 5th thing that I found as a connection was something that was different. Alright, so something that was different was how the second video discussed more about crowding out and how people have a tendency to actually lose intrinsic motivation when they're given a reward. So let's say the video gave the example of writing a poem, and if you're, let's say you're writing poems just for fun, someone pays you to write those poems. Okay, great. But then, however, once you're given a limit, like if they say you have to write 40 poems in a month, then they might become less motivated to actually get that work done, or they might do less of a job, meaning it won't be as good if they're doing that just because they're being paid for it. Alright, so that covers the first question. Second question is, how does the concept of face connect with the two videos? Think of at least 3 different ways. How would you apply the concept of face to teaching in or out of the classroom? Okay, so how the article connects to the two videos. Intrinsic motivation can be assisted with skilled face work. Second, you want to be able to reward students when they are going towards a direct goal. You want to praise them for doing good work. If they get an A on a test, say great job, things like that. Number 3, the third thing I found was that face work can help students gain interest in subject matter, similar to intrinsic extrinsic motivation. So when you're using face work, then you're encouraging those students to continue doing good work in your class, and then they'll become somewhat more motivated. And how I will use it in my classroom, go back to my notes here. Alright, so the first one I would do is I would tend to maybe use more indirectness. I would be able to mitigate face threat in the classroom when possible. I would do this by with like positive redress, by like using less formal language and just kind of approaching the student in a way that they will feel comfortable, by not using large vocabulary words and just more complimentary in-group language, first of all, and that way it can create aspects of praise in that way. The second thing I would do is to maybe map out coherent encounters and not just single messages. This way I would downplay a dilemma's seriousness in a way, just kind of tell the student, like if they're really worried about presenting in front of a group or things like that, just kind of downplay the seriousness of the matter and just say, it'll be okay and just don't worry. Or maybe even talk about a similar reaction that I had maybe as a student, saying like, oh, I used to have stage fright too, like I can relate, it'll be okay. Things such as that. The third thing I could possibly do in my classroom is to take care to articulate my own position and identify, relate to a student's performance. In this way, I could say it matters to me that you understand this, and sharing a reasoning behind my advice. So if a student's really struggling with subject material and then they finally get it, I can say, oh, that's so great, I'm so glad. It matters to me that you're doing well in this class, and just say, like, this is why I'm proud of you, things like that. So I think that's just a really good way to use that point in the classroom. All right, so next question. What are 8 different ways you could apply Daniel Pink's video on business to the field of education, and that includes the process of training or professional development in fields outside of education? What would it look like in the classroom, and how might you do FedEx Day in a classroom? All right, so the first thing I want to touch on is that in the classroom that you want to discourage functional fixedness. I believe that this was mentioned in the Daniel Pink video, and this way you want to have the kids think more outside the box. For example, like when they had the tacks in the box during the candle problem, it was only until they took the tacks out of the box where the person solving this problem could really see the full picture and really understand that there's a different solution to the problem other than just adhering the candle to the wall, or maybe trying to tack the candle to the wall, which doesn't really work. You have to use the box. So that's a good way to use it. Second of all, the second point is that you want to give students a clear goal to achieve. Daniel Pink was saying that goals aren't very easily met when it's not clear, and you were just saying, okay, well, if you find out the answer to the candle problem, then I'll give you like $20. And that makes them more scattered brained, so they're gonna take more time to try and figure out that problem, as opposed to saying, okay, this is my goal, these are my tools, this is how I need to achieve it, go. And so I think that's really good to do. A third thing I can do, don't just give frivolous rewards such as money or king-size candy bars every time you want them to do something. You still want the students to respect you. So there was an experience one time where this didn't happen in my class, but somebody else, one of my other fellow students' classrooms, the teacher wanted the students to achieve, they wanted to play them a musical passage better, saying like, oh, if you, or it was their behavior. If they said, you need to be quiet, and if you guys are quiet today, I'll give you all king-size candy bars tomorrow. That's just very frivolous, and it doesn't really get the point across and doesn't encourage that intrinsic motivation. That's just being straight up extrinsic and just giving students things that they don't really need. They're not learning those skills that they need to get across. All right, number 4. The fourth thing is that there is a mismatch between what science knows and what business does. I think that the classroom should encourage intrinsic interest, kind of like I was saying in the last point. And if students achieve a goal, that's great. Go ahead and reward them. Don't just be so extrinsic at first. Don't just say, I'll give you a reward if you do this. Just try to engage students in critical thinking and their creativity beforehand, before you say, like, oh, there's going to be a reward at the end of this. They might actually be interested on their own. All right, so a fifth point, you want to be appropriate about rewards. Size and type matters. Like a good reward is that if, let's say, all students before a winter break, they all take an exam, and the teacher says, if you guys all study really hard and you get a good grade on this exam, and you are comprehending the material, then we can all have a pizza day when you get back from break. I think that's a pretty good reward. But if you're trying to give them like a candy bar or something every time they try to read a book, I think this was also brought up in the second video, in the first video maybe, that if you're just giving them like smaller rewards just to keep doing the same activity, then they're probably going to lose interest in that. So just be appropriate about your rewards. All right, so a sixth point in the Pink video, rewards can dull critical thinking and creativity. So I think, like I was saying earlier, I think the students should be trying to be critical thinkers and be creative on their own before they go off and before they are already not motivated to do the activity. So you want to try and encourage intrinsic thinking at first before you start extrinsic rewards. All right, so kind of what they were talking about in the pink video, he mentioned autonomy, mastery, and purpose. All right, so autonomy, like I said earlier, is basically when you give assignments and allow students to do the assignment however they want on their own time, just so long as the work is getting done, which I think is also really important in the classroom. Then the mastery part of it is you want to help students with things that they struggle with so that they can become masters of the subject. And then in this way, they can become, like, if they're not motivated because they feel that they're struggling in that subject, they can start mastering that material and then be more intrinsically motivated. Purpose, that's when you can relate the material to the students' lives or experiences that they will have or have had. You can say you'll use everyday math in your life when you're at the grocery store trying to add or subtract how much your food's going to cost, things like that. And then number 8 was FedEx days, which can relate to the second part of this question. FedEx days, basically, it gives, at a business standpoint, the boss says, all right, you have 24 hours, go out, do whatever you want to do, work on whatever you want to do, so long as it doesn't have to do with work. Great. I think that would actually be a really good idea in the classroom. I think that a good way to do this maybe it's not so not so free form. You want to, like, I think if you give the students too much freedom, then they're just going to come back and not really have done anything like productive really. So I think that if you give the students 24 hours to work on a project of their choice that is somewhat relatable to the topic that we're discussing in class, I think that would be really useful. Let's say in a music class, because I'm a music education major, I think it would be good if I could give the option to the students to either write a song or maybe record a cover of a song, things like that, just so that way they have some kind of guideline, so that way they're not just kind of wandering around lost about what they should do, like where should they start, things like that. Alright, so that covers all the 8 different ways and how it would be kind of set up in the classroom. Alright, so the final question, what are your personal connections with all of this, either your own experience or experiences others around you have had? I talked about one earlier about the king-size candy bars and how the students kind of lost respect for the teacher. But an experience that I've had is kind of like the pizza thing I talked about. Basically, what happens is every year there'll be a band contest, and it's called state contest, and the director would do this every year, and he said that if we received a superior rating at the band contest, then we could have a pizza day the Monday that we come back, just kind of as a day to kind of relax, kind of recharge ourselves, to go into the next topic that we were talking about, and it rewards us, and it gives you something to look forward to. It encourages some students to practice more, which then builds intrinsic skills that they can use later down the road, because they built up skills in their practice that they can use for future classes, which is really good. So I think that's a really good experience that I had, and I think it'd be really good to use in a music classroom standpoint. So I think that wraps up Project 1. Thank you for watching my 15-minute long video, and I look forward to seeing more videos from you and continuing taking your class. All right, thank you.